Hello and welcome to Conscious TV. I'm Iain McNay and today our guest is Tim Freke. Hi Tim. Tim, you've written a lot of books, haven't you? Over 20 books over the years. Your new one I have in my hand here. Hold it up. How Long Is Now? And I think you were telling me earlier that your books really represent part of your journey.
They do really, Iain. I've been very lucky, and I guess partly by design, of trying to find a way of being in the world in which I could actually explore my passion, which is, what is this? What is life? And so by writing about the journey of my exploration, I've been able to both share it and to make the journey at the same time. And when I do look back at my books, I can see this first phase, which was very much about investigating all the different spiritual traditions of the world and finding this commonality in them, that they were all pointing at their depth to a similar experience of waking up, spiritual awakening. And then the middle section was very much diving right into Gnostic Christianity, which was a huge surprise for me. That's when I wrote with my friend Peter Gandy, The Jesus Mysteries, which was our big bestseller. And that I never intended to do, but I got pulled into, and was a huge journey of discovery about this Western tradition. And then this latest phase with books, Lucid Living and then How Long Is Now, has been really where it's been all going. That's been a chance for me to articulate my own philosophy, my own insight, and my own journey, so that I can share the passion I have for this, what is it, directly, not through other people's thoughts.
Right, because it all started, didn't it, when you were about 12 years old? You had this quite extraordinary experience. Can you talk us through what happened?
Yeah, it was, I guess I was a strange kid in some ways. For me, life has always seemed profoundly mysterious. And growing up, it always felt like the grown-ups were in some sort of coma. They were all kind of asleep. Or they were all pretending that they knew what life is. And yet, it seemed that none of them really did. You know, the teachers, you know, my parents even, everybody just seemed to be walking around as if they knew what was going on. And yet, life seemed so mysterious, so strange that we were here and we didn't know why. And I used to sit on this hill in Yeovil, in the southwest of England, where I grew up, a very, very ordinary sort of town, and think about these things. You know, what is life? What is death? What should we do with it? Why is there suffering?
But that's quite deep for a kid of 12 years old.
Yeah, it was always there for me. I don't know why. It always felt like life was this massive question.
It didn't quite add up somehow.
And that somehow I had to find a massive answer to meet this massive question of my existence. That I was, that this whole, not just me, the whole universe. And the more I discovered about the universe, the more profoundly strange and just mysterious. That's the word for me, mystery, unknowable. What is it?
Did you find that other kids had the same questions, or did you
No, not at that time.
alone with this?
I was really. And I was quite happy with that. I didn't feel lonely with it because it was very internal for me. So I didn't feel the need then to share it. I did later. And this questioning, I think, is what philosophy is, really, at its heart, is the ability to, I didn't know that then, but it's what it is to ask these questions and to go into them and to enter the mystery of the moment. And what happened to me when I was 12 was I was sitting on this hill, as I would do, and, well, at the time it just felt like something happened. I didn't know what it was. I would say now that my state of consciousness profoundly changed. Something happened to my state of consciousness where it felt at the time was like the top of my head had come off and the sky had pulled in.
Okay, so you were sitting there, and you were looking at the view, whatever you were doing, and you had these questions vaguely going through your mind. And just talk us through the sequence of what actually happened.
Well, the sequence is a blur, to be honest with you, Iain, and, you know, I don't want to, you know, it's a long, long time ago.
Okay.
What I do remember profoundly, though, and will always be with me, is the state I arrived in, very quickly and very suddenly, of this profound oneness with everything. And this sense that my own experience, I was suddenly aware of my experience in a new way, so that just the feeling of the embodiment was exquisite. The colours were very bright, the sounds were very beautiful to hear, like nature itself was a symphony. And the biggest thing, the thing which made the hugest impact on me at the time and still does was this immense love. Like
Right.
the whole universe was thick, permeated, held together, if you will, by love.
So it wasn't a scary experience in any way?
It wasn't at all
No.
a scary experience. It was the
Yeah.
most real. I mean, I was in tears, and when I think about it now, I feel the same emotion. It was intense relief, a sense of coming home, like as if I'd stepped into a secret garden, which was just next door, and I always knew it was there, and suddenly I was back home, where
Right.
where it felt right, where I didn't feel alienated like I did in the world, because although I said I didn't need to share these things, I did feel, as many people do, especially young people, very alienated. Kind of like, whoops, wrong planet. What am I doing here? I don't fit in here. I don't belong here. And suddenly, here I was in the same place, feeling absolutely at home. Like, this is the place. And all that had changed was my state of consciousness. Everything else was the same.
You said in the book, actually, there was a jolt and your thoughts came to a stop.
Yes, there was a moment where, where it just exploded out into this love, and at that point there was just an ocean of love. And looking back, one of the things which interests me was this sense I had of that Tim, this little boy, felt utterly, utterly loved, and in that way it was kind of like a religious experience, and also I had this profound sense of being the loving Tim, which at the time I really had no way of understanding at all.
Yeah.
But I do, it makes sense, much more sense to me now.
Again, you describe it in the book as being engulfed by an ocean of bliss.
Yeah, just
it's a pretty far out experience at
yeah,
any age.
yeah. I mean, and one that it made such an impact. My whole life has been about returning to and diving into.
Yeah. And then you talked about in the book again about this started a journey to find out more about what life is about and what actually happened to you.
I think what I gained from it, I went down. I mean, make no mistake about it. Tim was also a very ordinary kid. There was nothing. I came back and did school and did
of course, I
crazy
understand that.
things
Yeah.
and did mad things and was very was a teenager. But something had happened in that moment where, I mean, actually that's not quite true. What actually happened was I came down. I wrote a play. The very first thing I did was I wrote a play called The Wrong Way.
Really?
Which was this kind of surreal tour through history in which you were being led to the solution to all of these problems being love and oneness, but love specifically. Yeah. And I was a member of a theatre group which I was then running of all young people. And we put this on in a local church, which was also a theatre. And it was quite a big deal in our local town. We had the TV come and it was all packed, and it was a big thing because it was small, all kids, all done by kids. And it was in church, and had swearing in church, because there was one scene in Ireland where there was swearing, so swearing in church, and it was all a bit outrageous. And this profound message of love, and bizarrely, my mother, God bless her, had tucked the play away in the box which mums keep of all their kids' stuff. And I found it a few years back and looked at the end. And astonishingly for me, the last paragraph it ended with, it could have come from one of my books now. In one way, I felt I'd been on this huge journey over all these decades. And in another way, I'd said exactly what I'm saying now when I was 12, 13. Yeah. And that was the first thing I did, was to articulate it and try and say it, which is what I've been doing ever since. But I had to know what I was articulating. And what followed through was what happened to me. I knew then that what I was looking for was a state of consciousness, the place of going home, the place in which my questions were resolved rather than answered, was by entering this other state, what I call being deep awake now. So I was looking for ways, how can I play with consciousness? How can I change my state? How can I move into this deep awake state? And how can I share it with others? Because right from the start, I found that when I entered the deep awake state, which happened to me again and again and again, people around me started to. And the more of, when I shared it with others, it was very beautiful. The love was very obvious.
In a way, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. I think all states are.
Yeah.
I think if you hang out with somebody who's feeling pretty low, you can start feeling a bit low. If you're with someone who's cheery, you can start feeling cheery. And if we enter the deep awake state together, you kind of resonate into this place together.